Welcome to Undercurrent, a current affairs show about Perth, made in Perth by Perth people. We're happy to have you with us this evening, and we're looking forward to bringing you the stories that affect you. Perth's a small city, but it's filled with amazing people with even more amazing stories. We want to share those stories with you each week. We're going to dive into what's going on right here in your community and discover the hidden stories of Perth. Tonight, on our first episode, we've got a terrific show lined up for you, so let's get right into it. First up, I'm joined by WA Media Award winner Damian Smith, who studies at the West Australian Academy of Performing Arts and won his award for being the most outstanding journalism student. Damian, welcome to Undercurrent.
G'day, thanks for having me on.
Congratulations on the award. What's it all about?
I think the beard played a really big part in it, basically. No, it involved me submitting 3 pieces of work. Being a student, I've forgotten what 2 of them were already, but it was a combination of the radio and TV work I'd done throughout the year at the Academy.
All right, but so you've won the award, which is a fantastic thing. What opportunities does that now give to you?
I actually accepted a job just yesterday, and I had an emotive day yesterday. I had 2 job offers in the one day after a whole month of being eminently unemployed.
Are you happy to tell us a little bit more about what the job actually is?
Yes, yeah, I'll be reporting TV for GWN in Geraldton.
Awesome.
So it's still within striking distance of Perth on the weekends in case I need a good cup of tea or something.
And I guess, everybody has to do their apprenticeship, so to speak.
Yeah, well, the good thing about country experience is everyone's always told me that you learn a lot and you learn it really fast. I mean, the whole office is going to be me and a camera operator.
Is that right?
You really just have to put your head down and work really hard.
Look, just a few more questions then about the actual journalism award that you won. You submitted 3 pieces of work. What were those? Well,
the one that I think probably got their eye was the very first TV package I ever put together. So at WAAPA you do same day TV stories. You do them, you walk in at 8:30 in the morning and by 5 o'clock it's got to be ready to go to air. And it was on an interest rate rise, and I had to try to make it interesting. So I actually came into the city here, did a couple of vox pops with people, and ended up with a spectacularly bogan guy giving me a really good quote about bank prices. So yeah, that was a real challenge doing that for the first day and on my own as well.
It's probably a bit early in your career to be asking this question, but where do you see yourself in, say, 10 or 15 years' time?
That is a tough question. I really love presenting radio. I mean, for one thing, it's just a great way to get an instant connection with people. And really good fun as well. I mean, there's nothing more fun than the performance aspect of being in broadcasting. So I consider it a real privilege to have been part of that for the past couple of years.
So you do see that there's a balance here between the journalistic side of what you do and the presentation or performance side of what you do.
Yeah, I'm not saying that you can't have both at once. I mean, that's what broadcast journalism is all about. But having done a lot of presenting, particularly on the music side of things, I really kind of felt like it was time to get the reporting chops up a bit and prove to myself that I could do that. Because I've been behind the desk of a radio studio for a couple of years now, and really just wanted to spread my wings a bit further than that.
Being based in Geraldton, with the recent floods in Carnarvon, you might be called upon to go out to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Any worries about doing that?
Well, it's funny you say that. I was reading the paper this morning and I saw this tiny little paragraph in the paper about something in Geraldton, a court case that was coming up in February, and I thought, geez, I'm going to have to be doing that. So yeah, definitely when you see these big stories break, you think, I hope I've got enough energy in the tank and enough experience in the bag to deal with those things when they come up, but that's part of going to the country, you learn, I guess. I'm pretty sure I could handle whatever Geraldton has to throw at me. I say that now. I'll probably have crayfish hanging off each finger.
Well, you definitely seem to have the right attitude when it comes to doing the journalism. Congratulations on the award.
Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. Next up, Nick Hayes had a chat with Suzie Fuhrmann, a West Australian who's now part of the Australian Diamonds netball team. Suzie's recently returned from the Commonwealth Games in India and speaks about that game against New Zealand and what's next for her.
Suzie, thanks for joining us.
No worries, good to be here.
Commonwealth Games. Are we talking about it?
We're talking about it. Yeah, I suppose it was a great experience and everyone says that, but I'm absolutely gutted, you know what I mean? I mean, we were training so hard and going all out for that gold, and to come so close and step away with silver, it's just devastating.
What was the feeling like out in the court?
Tell you what, it was the longest game in netball history, and the adrenaline that just goes through you when you're playing, for that long and that intense. You don't actually feel it when you're out there on the court because you're just so in the moment. But, as soon as that final goal went in and, we'd lost the game, it was just everything came on top of you basically. And yeah, it's taken a while to get through it, but we'll keep working and smash them next time.
Smash them next time. I mean, it was against the old guard. It was against New Zealand, which the two best sides running around. What were the feelings coming home? I mean, it's a long trip from India.
It is a long trip, and it's really hard because with a huge competition like that, you have 4 years build up to every Commonwealth Games, and then basically we finished the grand final and everyone just went, dispersed home. So we never really had a chance to sit down as a team and talk about it. So yeah, everyone was pretty flat, and yeah, everyone was just gutted, devastated.
You're studying pharmacy.
Yes.
You're an elite athlete. Where do you find the time?
I don't, no. The university's been really great with me, working things around my netball and, helping me submit assignments late and reducing exams, that sort of thing. But yeah, I suppose I love both things that I do. So, when you've got something you love, you just do it.
How important is family to Suzie Fuhrmann?
Family is everything, really. I mean, my parents have supported me from day one. They've never pushed me to say, you have to do this, you have to achieve this. They've just, everything that I've gone out to try and do, they've just loved me and supported me and told me it's okay, you know what I mean? So, yeah, so it's really great to have that sort of support behind you.
Is Suzie Fuhrmann, how does Suzie Fuhrmann end up being Suzie Fuhrmann? I mean, how tall are you?
I'm 6'5".
Is any other family member that tall?
My dad's 6'9".
Your dad's 6'9"?
Yeah, he's got a little bit of height on me still. But
what does it take to be an elite athlete? I mean, you're doing all these things.
I think the height helps.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just dedication, I suppose. I mean, I never, when I was younger, pictured myself in this, having this opportunity and going out and doing this. I absolutely love what I do, but it's sort of developed over time, I got picked in one talent squad and from there into another team and before you know it, you're training every day of the week and working your butt off.
I heard a rumour that you always wanted to, when you grew up, you wanted to be a bus driver.
Yes,
is that true?
I did. It's true. Yeah, we used to catch the bus to school every day, and I just absolutely wanted to be a bus driver so I could drive my older sister to school. My mind just didn't quite get around that then.
Well, Suzie, what do you love about Perth?
Perth is such a unique city. Everyone says it's the most isolated city in the world, and I think that gives a real community sort of feel about it. I'm a country girl growing up, and I love the fact that Perth is a smaller type of city, but you got everything here that you need. It's absolutely fantastic. I love it.
Well, Suzie, good luck for the season coming up. Well done. A silver is just as good as gold in our eyes.
Yeah, thanks.
Good on you. Thanks, Suzie.
Thank you so much.
We're in Perth's Hay Street Mall, and I've come across a group of people who refer to themselves as the CEC, or the Citizens
Electoral Council.
Citizens Electoral Council.
We're actually Australia's Republican movement, and we have active push at the moment to expose the banking fraternity, which is essentially centred in what remains of the old British Empire.
So Ian, tell me, what is the actual problem with the banks financial institutions as they stand today?
The fact that they are allowed to operate as predatory entities that can actually create debt via speculative bubbles is that the currencies that are created largely from the US Fed Reserve are not backed by anything productive. Its ability to loot economies, the IMF and its conditionalities imposed on nations that pay back the debt many times over in exorbitant interest is...
But that's true, but I mean, they're actually operating legally. I mean, that's under our law, under our legal system, they're allowed to do that.
Yeah, that's right.
But you don't actually have a problem with banks making a profit, do you?
No, we need banks. We just want to re-regulate them so that they actually are part of an economy and not dictating terms to nations, because unfortunately going down that road they have bankrupted themselves, and current governments intend to make the population of nations pay. The idea of sovereign government for all nations is actually our platform in cooperation in many countries around the world under the leadership of the US economist Lyndon LaRouche.
If you do any research on the net, for example, LaRouche is often seen as a bit of a loon. How do you feel about all of his policies?
Just because they're misunderstood by the majority of the population doesn't make them wrong. And I guess that's the difference between us, is we encourage people to actually investigate, find out for themselves. Don't necessarily believe me, find out.
Well, it's hard to argue with that. Ian, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you
Good on
very
you.
much, gentlemen.
We're just about to head into an ad break, but stick around. We'll be right back after these messages with more Undercurrent. Welcome back. The world we live in can at times be a dangerous place. We're always hearing stories about people being attacked or beaten up for no apparent reason other than being in the wrong place at the wrong time. I went out to speak with security specialist Dave Turner and Dennis Gallagher to hear what you can do to better protect yourself from personal attack.
Happy New Year!
Gentlemen, if the mainstream media are to be believed, Northbridge is the most dangerous place on earth. Is that the case?
I think the problem with Northbridge is the way that the media are portraying the place. I've been working in Northbridge for 18 plus years, and the way that the City Council have addressed with cameras, police presence, no, not at all.
I listen to 6PR and I read the Sunday Times and the West Australian, and they're all screaming and shouting about how necessary it is for us to enact new legislation so that we can stop and search people.
I think what it is violence always makes good reading on Sunday morning, is the first one. I think the police are doing a phenomenal job, and the thing about the police, especially in Northbridge, is they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't.
Inevitably, there are going to be some people that go to Northbridge and have too good a time and perhaps drink a little bit too much, and they come out and they are a little bit violent.
Yeah.
But how do I, as a private citizen, protect myself from that kind of behaviour?
Always travel in threes. Not twos, not fours, especially guys, because now you start becoming a bit of a gang, but 3 is a perfect number. And again, listen to what your friends say. Don't go there, let's not do that. That's what's the important thing.
Exactly, and it comes down to a good self-awareness, having good assertiveness and body language and the way you walk, the way you talk. That's a huge compliment to safety.
Do you recommend a pepper spray?
This is a touchy one. We can go pepper spray, but there can be a liability. Pepper spray can be the last defence and the worst case. What we do recommend is taking steps before we get to that stage where we have to use that pepper spray. And we can do that very easily by having the confidence, having the security tips and procedures in place just to go out and do a proper assessment of where you're going that night with your friends.
So who would you say are the most vulnerable members of our society when it comes to being victims of violence?
I would say probably the most vulnerable would be people who are partying on a Friday night. They've been working all day, they party like we all have, become very tired, then they become vulnerable. If they don't have good self-awareness, if they're not confident, people pick up on this. And the biggest one is when they're separated from their friends and all of a sudden they're alone in a very busy environment.
So what would be the strategy there, the plan?
I think the ideal thing there is that before you go out, prior preparation, and part of that is you say where you're going to go, what venues you're going to go to, and also what happens if you get separated, because the biggest problem you have is you say you want to go home, but your friends think you're lost, so they continue searching around. So get that organised before you leave home.
It's good to approach someone in authority, so a security guard, a policeman. Worst case, they can get a taxi and go home.
Right.
It's probably one of the safest cases.
Yeah.
But definitely communication, and try and find out how they can communicate with their friends, or come up with a strategy plan like Dennis was saying, and have a good plan before you go out about where you might meet if you separate and how to get back together.
Excellent. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
For more security advice from these guys, you can check out their website. We're actually here in the city of Perth at the moment at the Perth Town Hall, and it just goes to show even historic buildings these days need to have additional security as well. It's a real shame. Jeremy Garlett is an Aboriginal Police Liaison Officer and also hosts the Saturday Night Request Show on Noongar Radio. Each week he'll be joining us to speak about current issues affecting Indigenous people. Tonight he speaks about the former Governor-General of WA, Lieutenant General John Sanderson, and how the change in government affects Aboriginal people in Western Australia. Thanks, Jeremy.
The Indigenous Implementation Board, which I chair, has come to the conclusion that we need regional government in Western Australia with Aboriginal people being represented in it, as part of it. In fact, in some places, central to it. We think that this is a way of actually developing governance from the bottom up and putting government closer to the communities and the people.
Good evening, my name is Jeremy Garlett, and the topic of the week on Aboriginal issues here in the West is about Lieutenant General John Sanderson. Now, he's the Governor-General, or the former Governor-General of Western Australia. Mr. John Sanderson was elected by or appointed by the Carpenter government in 2006 to advise the government on a range of Aboriginal issues. And it was his duty to go out to the community, to speak with the people, and to present to the government some of the issues that are affecting Aboriginal people. And he was really outspoken on a number of issues. Issues with respect to housing, living conditions, death rates of Aboriginal people in Western Australia, and just generally employment, issues that were really, really vital for the development of Aboriginal people on an economic basis. So he was appointed in 2006. Since then, the Liberal government came into power. His contract was renewed for a time, and of course the expiry moment is here, and it's now that he has to expire that contract after working so hard within the Aboriginal community. It is unfortunate that he leaves because he has all this information that is not only important for Aboriginal people but also for the wider community. And he's accused the Barnett government of ignoring the Aboriginal plight and looking at big mining interest. And if that's the case, what happens is that the mining interest will come in, will go for mining, we'll believe that this is going to help the economy, which is really important. I think it's an important process when it comes to economic development because it does help individuals. But the other part of that is culture. We need to work along together with mining, with culture, with a place where our people have come from. Australia itself is the most important country, and history is so important, and an identity, because if you have no identity, you really have no people, and that's the most important part of it. Here in the West, what we think about is that we can roll over all these processes and saturate it with all these philosophies, Western philosophies, but we forget that there is a culture here in Australia, the Aboriginal culture, the First Nation culture, and if that's buried under the rubble of this Western process, it's going to be lost forever. Mining and money, we can get that, but when you've got culture, you lose it forever. It'll be gone. So it's very, very important and very crucial for all Australians, black and white, to be able to look at this particular issue and see this issue for what it is and how important it is to have this as a culture, because it's a reciprocity process of sharing Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal, because if we lose the culture, you lose it as well.
Thanks, Jeremy. He'll be back next week to speak about dealing with abuse in the community. Finally tonight, Curtin University recently changed the structure of their parking fees. Journalist Cav Cuddy went to find out how these changes affect the students and what they think about it.
Well, parking here at Curtin is always a bit of a challenge, especially if you've got classes at 9 a.m. in the morning, which most of us do. You end up circling the car park for 30 minutes, even up to an hour, trying to find a parking spot. And then if you do find one, it'll be miles and miles and miles away from campus, and it's a long walk, or you end up just parking off campus on somebody's driveway, somebody's verge, at the back at Canning College as well.
So in the first semester, students will be paying $85 for a permit. Then in second semester, pay-as-you-go parking will be implemented. That's 75 cents an hour. There'll be about just over 2,000 bays that will be charging $3.50 per day. That's a capped price. So students are looking at paying twice as much to park at Curtin, and no real benefits or added benefits to park at Curtin as well, or public transport for that matter.
Estimates by the Guild are saying that's going to cost upwards of $400 a year, and that's based upon 25 hours on campus. Most of us have got many, many more hours on campus than that. Split timetables, if you've got a class at 9 a.m. in the morning and then a class at 5 p.m, you're going to be here for hours and you're going to be paying for it. You know, people will leave campus to avoid having to pay and then come back, which doesn't really tie in with Curtin's green policy all that well now, does it?
We've just started up a petition and we've had over 2,000 students sign the petition saying they're against pay-as-you-go parking. I think the last time I checked it was like 2,470 students.
I proposed on the internet once on one of these forums that we should try carpooling bays, where you have specific bays for people with more than 2 or 3 people in a car to park closer to the buildings. The other thing as well is to have sort of, if you're going to have a pay-as-you-go system, have a staggered parking, so the bays further away cost less, so like 25, 30 cents an hour, and the bays closer to the buildings cost more.
Students will be opting to move away from campus because students feel like they're being penalised to be here, penalised to study here and participate in campus life.
Being involved in the extracurricular activities, socialising, open days as well. If you've got to be here for more than a couple of hours, it's really going to cost you. I mean, Curtin is notoriously sort of stiff when it comes to reasoning with people, and the Guild have tried many times in many different scenarios to try and help us out and keep things going, but they're doing as much as they can.
We will continue to meet with the university about creating a transport strategy, so it looks at the short-term impact of getting to and from uni using safe and accessible modes of transport.
Just keep sending emails to the VC, get involved with the Guild. They're running protests and petitions and all sorts of things. Just keep up.
Well, unfortunately, that's all we have time for tonight, but we'll be back next week with another great show for you. You might recognise this building. It's the Wesley Church right in the heart of the city. And here's a little piece of trivia for you. Did you know that Alan Bond once painted the top of this very church? Next week, we're going to be speaking with Atlas Iron Managing Director David Flanagan about mining. Some of you may have gotten a puppy for Christmas. Well, we went out to a puppy training school to hear about the best way to set your dog up for a healthy new life. We'll also catch up with Sunday Times photographer Theo Fakos to speak about the picture of the Danny Green fight that won him a WA Media Award. If you'd like to get involved with Undercurrent, or you've got a story that you think we should cover, please get in touch with us here at West TV. Why not visit our website at wtvperth.com.au. We'll be back next week and would love to have your company again. Many thanks to Ness and the team behind the scenes who've laboured so very hard to get Undercurrent to air. We appreciate all of your efforts. I'm Jason Jordan. Good night.